Sheltering 3 alien runaways was dangerous, but what they gave in return. Whispers in the void. The red dwarf star cast long shadows across Theo Reeves' property as it dipped below the artificial horizon of Novus. He wiped sweat from his brow, inspecting the struggling seedlings in his greenhouse. 6 months since he'd arrived on this terraformed moon, and he still couldn't get the soil chemistry right. "Damn it," he muttered, noticing the yellowing leaves on his tomato plants. Another failed crop meant another month of synthetic rations. At 37, Theo had hoped to leave hardship behind when he'd exchanged his military uniform for a homesteader's license. The distinctive chirp of his atmosphere monitor interrupted his thoughts. Theo glanced at the device, its display flashing amber. Solar storm approaching. He'd need to activate the electromagnetic shields before nightfall. As he exited the greenhouse, something streaked across the russet sky, too small for a transport ship, too large for debris. The object disappeared behind the ridge of basalt cliffs that bordered his property. Seconds later, the ground trembled beneath his feet. Theo's hand instinctively moved to his hip, where his pulse pistol would have been during his 12 years as a combat medic for the Earth Coalition. Old habits died hard. He grabbed his field scanner instead and headed toward the crash site. The scanner picked up 3 life forms, non-human, according to the readings. Theo approached cautiously, climbing the ridge to get a better view. Below, a small craft lay half buried in the rusty soil, its hull still smoking from atmospheric entry. A panel slid open on the side of the vessel. 3 slender figures emerged, their skin a pale blue that seemed to shimmer in the fading light. Females, Theo guessed, though his knowledge of alien physiology was limited to battlefield triage. The tallest of them stumbled and fell. The others rushed to her side, their movements fluid yet urgent. Even from a distance, Theo could see the dark stain spreading across her abdomen. "Help," one of them called out in accented standard English. "Please." Theo hesitated. Harboring non-registered aliens was a Class 1 offense under Dominion occupation law. The punishment was swift and final, public execution as an example to others. After the war, when the Arcturus Dominion had claimed this sector, they'd made it clear that humans were to be tolerated, not trusted. "We mean no harm," the voice called again. Theo thought of the military oath he'd taken, to preserve life wherever possible. He'd broken it once before, on a battlefield far from here. The memory still haunted his dreams. With a resigned sigh, he descended toward them. "I'm a medic," he said as he approached, or was. The sisters, for they were unmistakably related, with their identical high cheekbones and almond-shaped eyes, regarded him warily. The one who had spoken stepped forward. "I am Zara," she said. "These are my sisters Myra and Vila." She gestured to the injured one. "Vila needs help." Theo knelt beside the wounded alien. Her skin felt cool to the touch, and her blood was thick and iridescent, like liquid opal. "My equipment isn't calibrated for your physiology," he warned. "We heal differently," Zara explained. "We just need shelter, safety." Theo glanced at their vessel. It would be visible from orbit during the next satellite pass. If Dominion patrols spotted it, they'd investigate. "We need to move," he decided. "Can you walk?" he asked Vila. The injured alien nodded weakly. "Your ship needs to be hidden. The solar storm will mask its heat signature for now, but we need to cover it." Myra, the smallest of the 3, had remained silent until now. "I can help with that," she said softly. Before Theo could ask what she meant, Myra placed her palm against the hull of the craft. A shimmer rippled across its surface, and gradually the vessel began to take on the appearance of the surrounding rocks. Within moments, it was nearly invisible, distinguishable only by a slight distortion in the air. Theo stared dumbfounded. "How did you?" "Questions later," Zara interrupted. "The storm approaches." As if on cue, the sky darkened, and the first particles of the solar storm began to dance in the atmosphere, creating eerie lights that bathed the landscape in ghostly green. Theo led them back to his modest dwelling, a prefabricated structure reinforced with local basalt. Once inside, he activated the shields. The hum of the electromagnetic field filled the air as it deflected the harmful radiation. "Put her on the bed," Theo instructed, pointing to his sparse sleeping quarters. He gathered his medical supplies, knowing they'd likely be of little use. Vila grimaced as her sisters lowered her onto the bed. Her wound pulsed with an unnatural light. "Particle weapon?" Theo asked, recognizing the distinctive signature. Zara nodded. "Dominion Security Forces." "You're fugitives, then," Theo stated, not bothering to phrase it as a question. "We prefer refugees," Myra replied. Theo didn't press the issue. Whatever they were running from, they had brought danger to his doorstep. But as he looked at Vila's pained expression, he couldn't bring himself to turn them away. "I'll help you," he said, "but I need to know what I'm dealing with." Zara exchanged glances with her sisters. Something unspoken passed between them. "We are Lumini," she finally said, "the last of our kind." Theo had heard whispers of the Lumini, a species rumored to possess abilities beyond normal comprehension. Most humans considered them mythical, like unicorns or dragons. "The Dominion has hunted us for generations," Zara continued. "They seek to harness our gifts." "What gifts?" Theo asked, though he already had a suspicion after witnessing Myra's camouflage trick. Instead of answering, Zara placed her hands over her sister's wound. A soft glow emanated from her palms, illuminating the dim room. Vila's breathing steadied, and the wound began to close before Theo's eyes. "Cellular regeneration," Theo murmured, his medical training kicking in. "That's impossible." "For humans, perhaps," Zara said, smiling slightly. The effort seemed to drain her. She swayed on her feet. Theo caught her before she fell. "You need rest too." "My crops," Theo remembered suddenly. "The soil toxicity." "I can help," Zara offered. "Tomorrow when I've regained my strength." That night Theo slept on the floor while the sisters shared his bed. The solar storm raged outside, battering the shields with waves of radiation. Theo lay awake, wondering what he had gotten himself into. In the morning, Zara kept her promise. She knelt in the greenhouse, her hands buried in the soil. The same glow he had witnessed the night before now spread through the earth. Within minutes, the yellowing plants straightened, their leaves turning a vibrant green. "How?" Theo asked, amazed. "Life responds to life," Zara explained. "Your soil lacked certain elements. I've adjusted its composition." Over the next few days, Myra demonstrated more of her camouflage abilities, concealing not only objects but sound as well. She created a bubble of silence around the property that would mask their presence from Dominion sensors. Vila recovered quickly under her sister's care. On the fifth day, as Theo was teaching Zara about human agriculture, Vila suddenly stiffened, her eyes rolling back to reveal only whites. "They're coming," she whispered, her voice altered deeper. "3 patrols, seeking, searching." Theo felt a chill run down his spine. What's happening to her? "Vila sees threads of time," Myra explained. "Possibilities, probabilities." Vila's eyes returned to normal, and she slumped against the wall. "They'll be here by nightfall," she said weakly. Theo moved to the window, scanning the horizon. "We need to prepare." "There's something else," Vila added. "Something about you, Theo Reeves, something dormant." "What do you mean?" "You're not just a human," she replied. "You're like us. That's why we were drawn here to you." Theo stared at her, disbelief warring with a strange sense of recognition. Outside, the sky darkened prematurely as storm clouds gathered, an atmospheric disturbance that wasn't in the weather forecast. And somewhere in the distance, the distinct whine of Dominion engines broke the silence. "Symphony of Stardust." Theo peered through his makeshift periscope, a clever arrangement of mirrors salvaged from his medical equipment. 3 Dominion scout vessels hovered at the edge of his property, their angular forms like obsidian knives against the twilight sky. "They're maintaining position," he whispered. "Standard search pattern." Behind him, Zara and Myra hastily constructed defenses from furniture and storage containers. Vila sat cross-legged in the center of the room, her eyes closed in concentration. "They're scanning for energy signatures," Vila murmured without opening her eyes. "Looking for our vessel." Thea watched as a squad of Dominion soldiers emerged from the lead ship. Even from this distance, their imposing silhouettes sent a wave of memories crashing through his mind. The siege of New Ankara, screams echoing through sterile corridors, his hands slick with blood, human and alien alike, the choice he made that day. "Theo," Zara's cool touch on his shoulder pulled him back to the present. "Your heart rate is elevated." He blinked, refocusing. "Sorry, bad memories." "We understand trauma," she said softly. "Our people have endured much at their hands." Outside, the soldiers fanned out in a standard search formation. One pointed toward Theo's greenhouse. "They'll find us," Theo said, a familiar tension coiling in his gut. "This place isn't defensible." "We're not defenseless," Myra reminded him, demonstrating by causing a ripple of invisibility to wash over her arm. "Camouflage won't stop particle beams," Theo countered, "and there are at least 12 of them." Vila's eyes snapped open. "It's time," she announced. "Time for what?" Theo asked. "To show you why we sought you specifically," Zara explained. "Why, of all the humans on this moon, we crashed near your homestead." "I'm nobody," Theo insisted. "Just a washed-up combat medic trying to grow tomatoes on a hostile moon." Vila rose gracefully to her feet. "Your modesty is admirable but misplaced. Hold out your hands." Reluctantly, Theo complied. Vila placed her palms against his, while Zara and Myra positioned themselves at his sides, each gently touching his temples. "Close your eyes," Vila instructed. "Feel the connection." At first, Theo felt nothing beyond the coolness of their skin against his. Then, gradually, a warmth began to spread through his body, starting at the points of contact and flowing inward like liquid sunlight. Images flashed behind his closed eyelids, stars being born, planets forming, life evolving across countless worlds. He saw the Lumini in their prime, their civilization a beacon of knowledge and harmony among the stars. Then came the Dominion, consuming everything in its path, hunting the Lumini for their gifts. And deeper still, he saw himself, not as he was now but as he could be. Power slumbered within him, a hereditary gift from ancestors he'd never known about. "My grandmother," he gasped, understanding flooding through him. "She always knew things before they happened. I thought it was coincidence." "Half Lumini," Zara confirmed. "Diluted through generations but present nonetheless. On your mother's side, 7 generations back when our people first made contact with Earth." The connection intensified, and Theo felt something uncoiling within him, a sense of potential, of energy long dormant now stirring to life. Outside, the first Dominion soldier reached the door of the greenhouse. "They're getting closer," Myra warned, maintaining the connection. "Focus, Theo," Vila urged. "Feel the threads connecting all living things." Theo concentrated, allowing the sister's guidance to channel his newfound awareness. The world around him seemed to shift, revealing patterns and connections he'd never noticed before. He could sense the soldiers approaching, their aggressive intent broadcasting like a beacon. "I can feel them," he whispered in amazement. "Now shape that awareness," Zara instructed. "Direct it outward." With a mental push, Theo extended his consciousness toward the approaching soldiers. To his astonishment, he could influence the space around them, creating subtle distortions in their perception. The lead soldier paused, confused, then turned away from the greenhouse, signaling his companions to check a different area. "I did that," Theo asked, breathless. "You merely nudged probability in our favor," Vila explained. "A beginner's skill, but impressive for your first attempt." A sudden explosion rocked the homestead. The sisters broke their connection with Theo, and reality snapped back into normal focus. "They've found the ship," Myra said urgently. Through the window, Theo could see flames where Myra's camouflage had been disrupted by the blast. The Dominion soldiers were converging on the area, weapons ready. "They'll be here in minutes," Theo said, his tactical training taking over. "We need to leave." "There's no time," Zara replied. "We must stand our ground. Against a Dominion squad, that's suicide." Vila stepped forward, her expression serene despite the chaos. "There is an ancient prophecy among our people," she said, "of a joining of bloodlines that would create a force capable of challenging the Dominion, 3 sisters and a descendant of the forgotten bloodline." "Me?" Theo laughed incredulously. "I just figured out I can make people look the wrong way." "Your potential is far greater," Zara insisted. "Together we can do more." Another explosion closer this time. The homestead's walls trembled. "Fine," Theo conceded, grabbing his medkit out of habit. "What's the plan?" "Join hands," Vila instructed. "Form a circle." As the sisters linked hands with him, the connection from before re-established itself, but stronger now. Theo could feel their gifts flowing into him, Zara's healing energy, Myra's ability to bend light and sound, Vila's temporal awareness. And something new emerged, his own latent ability acting as a catalyst, amplifying and combining their powers in unexpected ways. The door burst open. 3 Dominion soldiers stormed in, weapons raised. Driven by instinct, Theo channeled the combined energy outward. A shimmering barrier materialized between them and the intruders. The soldiers fired their weapons, but the energy beams dissipated harmlessly against the shield. "Impossible," one of the soldiers growled, adjusting his weapon settings. "Remember," Vila whispered to Theo, "life responds to life." Understanding flooded through him. Theo directed his focus to the plants in his greenhouse, feeling their vitality, their simple but powerful drive to grow and thrive. He drew on that energy, feeding it into their combined power. Vines erupted from the floor, wrapping around the soldiers' legs and arms. Their weapons clattered to the ground as they struggled against the rapidly growing plants. More soldiers poured in, only to be met with the same fate. Within minutes, the entire squad was immobilized. "We can't hold them forever," Theo warned, feeling the strain of maintaining such control. "We don't need to," Vila replied. "Look." Through the window, Theo saw the lead Dominion ship suddenly power down, its lights flickering and dying. The other 2 vessels followed suit. "What did you do?" he asked in amazement. "Not us," Zara said. "You. Your gift is one of connections between people, between energies, between systems." Theo realized she was right. Somehow, he had reached into the ship's power systems and disrupted them. The commander of the Dominion squad glared at them from his vine prison. "This changes nothing," he snarled. "The Dominion controls this sector. There's nowhere you can hide." "We're not hiding anymore," Myra replied defiantly. Vila stepped forward, her eyes glowing with inner light. "Tell your masters that the prophecy has begun. The symphony of stardust rises." The commander's eyes widened in recognition of the phrase. "The Lumini are extinct," he insisted, but doubt had crept into his voice. "Not quite," Zora countered, "and now we've found our catalyst." Theo felt the weight of destiny settling on his shoulders. "What happens now?" he asked quietly. "We leave this place," Vila said, gesturing to the vines. "These will release them once we're safely away." "My home is no longer safe," Zara finished gently. "The Dominion will return in greater numbers." Theo looked around at the modest dwelling he'd built, at the greenhouse where he'd struggled to create life from the inhospitable soil. 6 months of work, gone in an instant. Yet strangely, he felt no regret. For the first time since leaving military service, he had purpose again, connection, maybe even belonging. "There's a resistance movement," Myra explained as they gathered essential supplies. "Humans and other species working together against Dominion rule. They've been waiting for a sign for us." "And where do we find these rebels?" Theo asked, shouldering his pack. Vila smiled enigmatically. "The Cygnus Nebula. They have a base hidden in the radiation clouds, undetectable by Dominion sensors." They made their way to the Lumini vessel, now freed from Myra's camouflage. The damage from the Dominion attack was superficial. The ship's organic technology had already begun repairing itself. As Theo stepped aboard, he felt a resonance with the living ship, as if it recognized something in him. The interior reconfigured itself slightly, adapting to his human physiology. "The ship accepts you," Zara noted with approval. "Another good sign." Through the viewscreen, Theo watched his homestead grow smaller as they ascended into the atmosphere. The Dominion vessels remained dark, their crews working frantically to restore power. "They'll pursue us," he said. "Let them try," Myra replied confidently. "We have advantages they can't comprehend." Vila took the pilot's position, her hands dancing over the bioluminescent controls. "The journey to Cygnus will take 3 standard days," she explained. "Time enough for you to learn more about your abilities." As they broke free of Novus's gravity well, the stars spread out before them like scattered diamonds. Somewhere among them waited others like them, rebels, dreamers, those who refused to bow to tyranny. Theo felt Zara's hand slip into his. "Are you afraid?" she asked. "Terrified," he admitted, "but also alive, more alive than I've felt in years." She smiled, and something passed between them, a warmth, a connection that went beyond their shared mission or physiology. "The prophecy speaks of 4 who would challenge an empire," she said softly, "but it also speaks of harmony among the stars, of balance restored." "And romance?" Theo asked, half joking. Zara's smile deepened, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "All great symphonies contain a love theme, do they not?" As the ship accelerated to light speed, the stars stretched into brilliant streaks around them. Ahead lay uncertainty, danger, and the weight of a prophecy none of them fully understood. But also hope. Hope that had found Theo Reeves in the most unexpected way, through 3 alien sisters who saw in him something he had never seen in himself. The Symphony of Stardust had begun its first movement.